Of bright sunshine across much of England and Wales, light winds, so even though temperatures are fairly similar, it should feel more pleasant in the sunshine. Still plenty of cloud across Scotland, those showers merging into longer spells of rain, and still a chance we could see some sleet and snow over mountains. As I say, with lighter winds, it should feel a little bit more pleasant in that sunshine, but it is going to be feeling cold, and blustery winds still moving across Scotland, adding to the chill. And as we start the weekend too, there's still plenty of showers, longer spells of rain, and these moving slowly into across the Scottish borders, northern parts of England, generally turning clearer from the north, but still across England and Wales, plenty of bright sunshine, but another cold day on offer, and still feeling cold over the weekend, but turning milder into next week. Bye for now.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Right, we're having beans this morning.
Beans for breakfast. There's no better breakfast, is there?
I like beans on toast for breakfast.
So do I. I would actually call myself a baked beans connoisseur.
Would you? Well, we can put you to the test. Tell us what the story is.
The story is, you might think beans, you might think Heinz. Heinz means beans.
Beans means Heinz.
Beans means Heinz. Heinz means beans. Who knows? So, of all of the supermarket baked beans, it is actually the Aldi supermarket version, this version over here, which came out on top. The Bramwell's baked beans, 76% on the taste test.
And they're much cheaper as well.
Much cheaper. Households can save, if you're buying 2 cans a week, £100 a year buying the Aldi version of these baked beans. So we thought we're going to do a blind taste test this morning to see.
So we've got the Aldi beans, we've got M&S beans, and we've got beans Heinz. So I think number 2 is the best one.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
2 came first best to me.
So the Heinz is number 3.
Interesting.
Which was the worst one?
Which is the worst one, which is the ones, actually, I'll buy it home.
Do you know what? That's just proven it. M&S was number 1. And Aldi was number 2, which was our favourite as well.
I said M&S.
Yeah, and we both said Aldi.
We did say Aldi. I have to be honest, I was not expecting that.
I told you. This is a hill I will die on. These are the beans that I get at home and I love them.
At university, you get the tin that's half that size, and it was 21p for the store ones and 23p for Heinz baked beans. And as I say, the key was in the thickness of the sauce and how hard the beans were. They
actually are really nice. They're really. I am really surprised, and we buy more than 2 cans a week, so it saved me a couple of £100.
We get through 2 cans.
So you like the Aldi ones?
I like the Aldi ones. Okay. I'm shocked.
They're a lot cheaper. Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wenslow with your headlines at 11 o'clock. At least 10 people have been killed by tornadoes in Florida, while the state's governor warns about more flooding to come. 3 million homes were without power, but Ron DeSantis says thousands have now been restored, while over 80,000 people are seeking shelter. Water levels are still expected to rise despite the storm clearing, with major flooding anticipated in several rivers across the state. Now, at least 22 people have been killed and 117 others injured in a reported Israeli strike on a central neighbourhood in Beirut. That's according to Lebanese security officials. It's being reported a senior Hezbollah figure targeted in the attack is understood to have survived. Meanwhile, the UN is warning of a humanitarian law breach after 2 peacekeepers were injured in a separate Israeli strike in Lebanon. Back in the UK, Sir Keir Starmer's former Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, will miss a key meeting of regional leaders as she takes a break before returning to work. The civil servant was appointed to the Prime Minister's regional envoy at the weekend after leaving her former job amid internal battles over her influence. The Prime Minister is due to chair the first ever meeting of a new Council of the Nations and Regions in Scotland tomorrow. However, Miss Gray will be notably absent. In other news, an illegal migrant who pushed a stranger onto the tracks of the London Underground has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 8 years. 24-year-old Bra Shorsh was found guilty of attempted murder in an attack a judge said would strike fear into the heart of every traveller on the Underground. The Kurdish migrant said he lost his identity documents after being refused asylum in Germany and then France before travelling on to the UK. The Princess of Wales has made a surprise visit to Southport to meet the families of the 3 girls who died following the knife attack this summer. The royal couple also met one of the dance teachers who was leading the session and first responders at the scene. The unannounced trip was Prince William and Princess Catherine's first joint official outing since the princess's course of chemotherapy cancer treatment ended in the summer. And finally, England have lost 2-1 to Greece in their 3rd match since Gareth Southgate stood down as England manager. It comes as Mr Southgate has bid farewell to coaching entirely, at least for the next year, and says he's unlikely to take over a different national team. England is currently searching for his successor, with Lee Carsley as interim manager, while Southgate hinted that a return to club football would depend on the right opportunity. Those are the latest GB News headlines.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at the next day's newspapers with 3 comedians. I'm Leo Kirsten. Tonight, I'm joined by the funniest Marx brother, it's Kerry Marx, and making his triumphant return, it's the People's Gammon. Oink,
hey,
oink.
Paul
Cox.
Oi, oi. How are we doing, all right?
Your gammon noise is getting really good.
Practicing in the mirror.
Yeah, I am. I just stand in front of the mirror each morning.
Yeah.
Piggying it out.
You're looking very smart as well.
I know. Like I'm trying to make an impression.
1920s bank manager.
Yeah.
Is this a knock on me? Because I'm wearing a T-shirt. You having it on?
You look like you're in a
jab, are you?
You look like you're in a New Romantics band.
Yeah.
You know the records. The records aren't selling as well as they used to.
The reality is, had a shirt already and the iron broke.
Okay.
Rock and roll, Kerry.
Yeah, man.
I thought you worked out in a full suit and you wore a T-shirt to this recording. Anyway, that's enough. That's enough banter. Let's get on with the show and let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. We're kicking things off with The Times. It leads with workers' bill set to help unions raise labour cash. The Telegraph has private hospitals to rescue the NHS. The Express has impossible choice to heat or eat. That's the dilemma facing pensioners with their fuel subsidy cut. The Guardian has United Nations says Israel deliberately fired on its peacekeepers. The Sun has We're Here For You. That's Kate visiting Southport. And finally, the Daily Star has Del Boy, save our gits and plonkers. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with tomorrow's Express, Kerry.
Well, we have several stories going on here. The Tories must get serious on migration to survive. That's Robert Jenrick, who obviously wants everyone to get serious on migration because that's the ticket he's playing right now, so that would really help him. So he's saying, everyone think like me, which, yes, of course, he would think that. But also, frozen in time, Shackleton's lost ship as it's never been seen before. So I thought that was Shackleton's lost another ship, but apparently not. I don't know what that is. I'm just reading up.
I think Shackleton, wasn't he a polar explorer?
Yeah. But I don't know whether this is an exhibition or not. But yeah, it's that. Presumably that's Shackleton, unless there's another one. It might be.
It says it's never been seen before, but I reckon it must have been.
Yeah, when they sailed it.
Yeah, when they sailed it.
Someone's seen it.
Yeah, I mean,
they might have had their eyes closed.
This is blindfolded. This is fake news.
The biggest story is on the front page. Labour's winter fuel cut slammed for leaving pensioners to make an impossible choice to heat or eat, which sounds like a bad bit from a Shakespeare play.
They could get a microwave and do both.
Yes, totally. Or you cook hot potatoes. You can stand by those for a little while, you know, warm yourself on them. This is the People's Health Trust charity. that's warned that this is already affecting health for the poorest of communities. I think this is really something Labour's kind of lumbered themselves with, haven't they? They came out with this policy, and I'm sure they really want to let this one go. It's not going to make enough difference in revenue to but they can't now. They've got to save face.
Thing, Paul. I mean, it's only saving a pretty minimal amount of money in the grand scheme of things, and it's actually a scheme on principle, I kind of agree with, because I don't think the government should give anybody any money whatsoever. But, I mean, really, it's terrible PR for Labour.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing. The numbers are 1.4 billion saved. Yeah. And when you look, that's loads of money. But when you think that we give 10 billion away to trying to get to net zero by 2030, which is not going to happen at all, 10 billion per year. So between now and then, it's going to be 60 billion quid that's going on that. So we really aren't going to save anything. And what we are going to do is create this completely unnecessary political S-storm because it's affecting... In here, Lee Anderson says, or he is accusing Labour of a shameful betrayal. It is a shameful betrayal, but it's a cynical betrayal as well, because they are using older people as political collateral. Yeah. They are doing so because they feel they feel comfortable to do so. We can target old people, and they're doing it across the board. The target of Labour so far has been purely old people. Yeah. It's been inheritance tax, making sure that they die freezing to death in the winter, and anything else they can get a hold of. They're looking at pensions now. Yeah, and I mean this is terrible PR, but it's also, I mean, I guess Labour have got no incentive to really look after old people, because old people tend to vote Conservative. Yes. So Labour are going to lavish their affections and their funding on asylum seekers and people like that.
Yes, there is a feeling there's a little bit more to it than that, you know, what's going on. But overall, I just think, I'm sure it's something like the Treasury made a suggestion to the Chancellor. She went with it, not realising that's always put forward, and that most Chancellors go, no, we're definitely not going to steer away from that one, that's bad. And I think they're just stuck with it now, and I think they'd love to. Oh, Reeves has stood up. They can't do that now. They've got to save face. They can't lose face, rather. It'll be interesting to see how they did.
And moving on to the I, Paul, what have they got in the...
The I, carers set for pay rise under new Rayner law. So unions welcome game-changing pay increases in neglected sector. They've previously demanded £15 an hour for carers, more than £12 an hour Labour back before the election. So this creates a fairly significant conflict to me on a personal level in terms of my own politics, because, you know, I think Rayner's a pretty big grifter. I do, you know. I mean, somebody who has spent more time arguing whether she is actually the Deputy Prime Minister or not than doing anything of any use since she came into power is someone I'm not particularly interested in. We did spend that time in Ibiza, which looked fun. But I do believe that carers are some of the most undervalued people in our society. I really do. And when we're arguing the toss between £15 and £12, it seems an insult. So I'd be all for making sure carers are well looked after in the same way they well look after us. So I'm probably behind this Labour policy, Leo.
Yeah, you pinko. Kiri, what do you make of this? Do you think carers deserve... I mean, I guess it is quite a tough job.
I'm really disappointed. We only see these front pages a few moments before coming on air, and I read it quickly, and I thought it said Carey set for more pay rise under new Rayner law, which would have been great. You know, I would have been so for this. No, but I agree. I do think carers should get decent pay and so on. I think it's odd that...
oh, my God.
They're making...
I don't know what's happening in the Labour Party conference.
Deal with it.
Everybody should get loads of money.
Deal with it,
where's this money going to come from?
Well, this is a good point. I'll tell you what.
That is a good point. They do say here it does raise concerns amongst care providers having to find extra money. That's not a concern. That's a fact.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how pay works.
But we could do a lot more to help the care.
Someone else has to pay it out. Yeah.
We could do... you think about all the things we are investing in. Foreign aid, for instance. I mean, why don't we look after our own? I think looking after people in other lands that have got space programs and nuclear weapons seems a bit ridiculous.
Why don't you tell us how much you hate carers?
Given that we've just seen 185,000 foreign people hired as carers, I mean, technically this is foreign aid. Moving on. Moving on.
Why is it called Rayner law? I assume that's the paper. She's not naming the law after herself.
She will do.
You know, on to the Times, Kiri. What have the Times got in the
Oh, you and you're moving on. OK, Well, what we have is several things going on here. Capital gains hike could cost Treasury in deferred asset sales. Basically, everything that Labour's looking at doing in the budget isn't going to fill the hole they're talking about anyway. Yeah. Nothing, even getting rid of non-dom status and so on.
Well, and also all the tax hikes that Labour are considering will actually reduce the amount of tax take, because as you raise the level of tax that you're ripping from people's pockets, people look at ways to minimise their taxes.
Of course they do, and the same with the non-doms thing. That could, of course, stop people from coming here and so on. So there's always downsides, and it's looking. I think more and more we're going to see the tax allowance raised and or lowered rather. And that's the one that I think they'd least likely to do, or at least like to do, but probably they're going to have to.
So you think they'll lower the capital gains level?
Not the capital gains, no. Well, I think the tax allowance is probably going to come down and make more people, put people in a different bracket.
And what's this about the workers' bill that's set to help unions raise Labour cash?
Yeah, I don't mind covering this. Workers' bill set to help raise unions' Labour cash, as you say. And this is Sir Keir Starmer, our great leader, will make it easier for unions to raise money for Labour as part of employment reforms that give trade unions far greater role in the workplace. Now, expanding union powers on the face of it can sound like, to some people, not to any of us sat here, like a wonderful thing.
Don't speak for me.
What this does, well, I don't know. I'll speak for myself then. I don't think it does. I think, and the reason being is it doesn't create a fair playing field politically beyond that point. Yeah. The unions have donated £10 million to Labour in the last year. If you give them more power, they're going to donate more money to Labour. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what government you have in, the Labour Party will have this continuous funding stream that they set up now, and it will work probably against big business. Now,
well, yeah, and it'll work for the unions. So we've already seen big, huge pay rises pledged to union members. So I mean, these millions of pounds that the unions give to Labour, it sounds like a lot of money, but considering the billions that their members get back, it's some of the
and their members have no choice about that.
The return on that money is
absolutely
insane.
It's
a great investment if you're a union.
There's something worrying about a government making laws that will just bring in loads of revenue
for them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And,
they wouldn't do so. If the union said we were going to split their donation 50-50 across the Conservatives and Labour, I almost guarantee Labour wouldn't be supporting this. They're supporting this because it's a political game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also supposed to be a workers' bill, but it seems that it's a fifth of the bill is about trade unions and extending their powers. That's quite a lot, really.
But this is not...
That shouldn't have even been particularly relevant to it.
I feel quite passionate about this because I don't see Labour as the party of the working class anymore at all whatsoever. So this is cynical again for me. They are not connected with the working class. The unions are. Yeah. I will accept that, and the unions are big funders of the Labour Party. But the Labour Party itself, particularly the Parliamentary Labour Party, are not for the working class.
I'd agree with you there. Well, that's the front pages done, but stay with us to find out how Macron is punishing us for Brexit, who's going to be the next leader of the Tory party, and while pensioners are having benefits cut, the asylum seekers are getting more. See you in a couple of minutes.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
You could, if you're getting a bit bored later on and you've got some free time, tune in to Friends. Remember that?
It's on somewhere in the world all the time.
Probably one of those
incredible.
Obscure TV channels.
It's a big anniversary today, because apparently today was 30 years ago, was when it first hit the screens.
In 1994. Just before, or just after I was born, 89 me. The show ran for 10 series, becoming one of the most popular sitcoms of all time, and it scored numerous accolades, including 62 Primetime Emmy nominations. Joining us now in the studio to talk everything Friends and the big anniversary is Showbiz reporter Steph Tetchy and my friend as well.
Happy Friendsniversary, guys. Yes, today is quite a monumental day for one of the most incredible sitcoms to ever hit our TV screens.
That it's on somewhere in the world.
There's millions of people around the world who are watching reruns, watching either streaming of Friends, and it doesn't get boring for people. I think, 30 years later, just that, it's such a simple concept. 6 New Yorkers just following their lives and their friendships. It proved a hit with loads of viewers worldwide.
The casting was super.
It was so incredible. And the thing is, these were all fresh faces at the time. It wasn't like they picked, people who were at the top of the game same then. And I think it was such a hit with viewers is because they became our friends as well over the years. But obviously today is played with a bit of poignancy because, you know, there is one friend that is missing. And the creators of the show, Martha Kaufman and David Crane, saying that today is a bit fraught for both the cast because of Matthew Perry's passing, and he was known as one of the funniest friends, as most people would describe him as, and so today is kind of marred with sadness.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and we're kicking off this section with The Guardian, who are complaining that Gazans have been demonised as killers just because of all the killing they did, Terry.
This is just The Guardian showing who they are, isn't it, as they love to do. But it's based on the documentary film One Day in October, which was on recently. I didn't see it.
I've not seen it. I've not seen it. No.
But there was a review in The Guardian by Stuart Jeffries, and I've seen bits of the review. I haven't read the whole review.
This is about the October 7th Hamas attack.
Yes, which is a documentary made up of GoPros and so on, things that the Hamas filmed themselves, but also Gazans who came over into Israel. There was around 4,000 militia and civilians who came over, and that included looting bodies and so on.
Yeah, so they're looting the kibbutzes and the properties in Israel while there were bodies of Israelis strewn around the ground. It sounds horrific.
And joining in all kinds of ways. And
live streaming it on
claiming
Facebook.
that they've been demonised for it. It's making them look bad.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is a documentary, and what he wants to compare it to is the film Zulu, which is one of the most bizarre things ever. This wasn't a film; it's a documentary that they filmed themselves. I don't know how you can, and also to say, you've got to realise also the way they treat it. He's saying here, I'm going to read this piece. If you want to understand why Hamas murdered civilians, though, One Day in October won't help. If you want to understand why they murdered civilians, you've got to see how they treat their own civilians. The dissidents in Gaza, and there's been film recently of them torturing their own people and then hanging the bodies in the street for people to come out and see. They can't be more visible about this.
Yeah.
They're constantly saying, this is what we do. But the Zulu reference is very telling and why The Guardian would publish that. The Jews are seen as the evil supremacist colonialists, and the Palestinians are either Native Americans or Zulus in this idea, rather than Arab Muslims who are colonialists and have been for 1,400 years. So
but Paul, I mean, we've seen this repeatedly. Some progressives, even professors, celebrated the October 7th attacks on civilians because they said it was decolonising Israel. They've got this idea that it's European. The Israelis are European white settlers, and they've taken over this land that doesn't belong to them at all. Even though if you want to look at a colonising force in the Middle East, I'd say Islam is quite a colonising force. I mean, Israel is the one tiny speck that isn't an Islamic country.
Well, there's absolutely no hope and a whole ton of hate in all of this stuff, isn't there? And, oh, no, we've othered and attacked a minority terrorist group, Leo. I mean, the idea that the truth is uncomfortable, so we have to avoid it, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's regressive. We can't go on like that. You can't in order for any resolution of any kind to take place in the Middle East, we have to accept the brutality and the evil that went on October the 7th. There's no two ways about it. That's the uncomfortable truth. It doesn't matter what you think or the comparisons you make. And what they're talking about with the Zulu film is othering the Africans within it because they were... And the whole point of that film, and you're absolutely right, it's a documentary, is the battle against the many against the few, and in this case, the few was the British. In this case, the few got slaughtered and raped.
Yeah.
There is no comparison.
Yeah.
And it does, I'm sure the Guardian readers lap this stuff up. And the parlance of these people is ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. The way they talk, it removes any intelligence from the conversation.
Yeah. I'd like to see
logical loops to reach this kind of narrative.
I'd like to see the Guardian do a remake of Zulu where they delve into the backstory behind the Zulu warrior. That'd be interesting to see. A good film for Christmas. Moving on to the Daily Mail, and Brexit was supposed to help us control our borders, but Tory leadership candidate Robert Jenrick explains how it's led to the opposite. Paul.
Non merci, which is no thank you in French, apparently. Tory leadership hopeful Robert Jenrick claims Emmanuel Macron doesn't want to fix the Channel migrant crisis, I don't know where he got that idea from, as a punishment for Brexit, and reveals French president rejected migrant swap deal last year. And you know what? Whilst he's taken a bit of a leap to the right, Jenrick, to try and win votes amongst his peers and now the membership, he's absolutely spot on about this. Emmanuel Macron is probably one of the biggest Europhiles in Europe. It was everything to him. He's become quite a small, not just physically, but a small political figure within Europe now because he's so weakened by his position in France. But Britain leaving the European Union was a massive shock to someone like Macron. Like, it couldn't be done, and it was done. And they have no appetite whatsoever to help the UK out. They just don't. Well, people will argue money's being spent, and they're doing some things, and they're doing other things, but they're not doing it anywhere near enough.
Well, there's no incentive for France to stop the flow of migrants coming across from Calais to the UK, because if they come across to the UK, France doesn't have to deal with them anymore. And so anything that reduces that flow is bad for Macron and bad for France.
I agree. That's the biggest problem. There is no incentive. If someone came over to me begging for money and they were being aggressive, nasty about it, and so on, I'd say go over to Leo. He's got some money. I'm not going to be stood there trying to go, oh, just stay with me over here. I don't want you going to bother him or anything. You're exactly right. What are we going to offer the French? Because we're paying the French. We're paying their police to police their borders and the beaches.
Yeah.
But that's the only incentive they've got. Yeah. Is that we're having to pay for it.
Oh, by the way, they use this as a bargaining chip against us as well. Yeah. You want to be friends with Europe, you want to do deals with us, you need to take more and more migrants. It's ridiculous.
I like what Jenrick says. The French could stop this tomorrow, but what I learned is you cannot rely on the French. I mean, if only there was some sort of historical precedent for this. Moving on, we've got The Independent reporting on the Tory leadership race, which is down to just two actually Conservative candidates. It's a bit of a rarity for the Conservative Party, which is upsetting the ultra-wet lefty faction of the Tory Party. Why don't these wet Liberals just join the Liberal Democrats, Kiri?
Put all your opinion into the introduction, if you in case anyone's got any doubts whatsoever. This is the Tory Reform Group, TRG. Anyone's going to mention them. These are the centrists. They refuse to back Jenrick or Badenoch. It's been an interesting few days, hasn't it? I mean, really interesting from how it was just a week ago after Cleverly's speech he's very much seen as the optimist, and we all love seeing optimists fall, don't we? When an optimist walks through the park, his speech was optimistic and bright and so on, and he apologised for losing the election and so on. But what really happened was there had to have been a lot of tactical voting to get him up to that level of votes that he had.
Well, there was votes. He was the lead candidate, but apparently there was vote switching where people who wanted Cleverly to win switched to voting for Jenrick to knock Badenoch out.
Yes.
This is because...
the tactical stuff, really complex, but...
particularly politicians of that level start to believe their own hype. They believe they're extremely intelligent. So there are lots of people in there that would have been doing tactical voting, thinking they were the cleverest little sausages the world had ever seen, and they lost. I mean, the trouble with the TRG, they are responsible, as are the Tories, the centrists of the Tory party, for A, ruining the Tory party, and B, doing absolutely nothing about absolutely everything. So they were completely aware over the last 10 or 14 years of all the problems that we're discussing now, but they were so locked into this, which way should we be Conservative? But there's only one way to be Conservative, and that's to the right of the centre, because that's conservatism. So they've completely undermined their whole process. And now they've lost probably their pin-up boy, and it's going to come to two right-wingers now.
But it's good news for the Tory party because, I mean, the Overton window is shifting to the right. And for all that they say, you know, the elections are won in the centre, I think the centre is going to be, you know, after 5 years of the Labour Party, after 5 years of open borders, immigration, the centre is going to be considerably to the right.
That's the thing. I'm not sure this is really about centre at all anyway, because they're complaining about this not being having one nation values, but one nation values are more about the economics and about opportunity for everyone. They're not about, you know, immigration could be considered a one nation policy that people on all sides of the argument are concerned about, and also to do with culture wars as well. That crosses the board, right?
It does also present an excellent opportunity for Leo and I to exercise our opinion about how ridiculous we think the TRG is.
Yeah, but also, how big are they? I mean, there could be 3 people.
Yeah, they are these things.
3 people not going to... Or maybe they're everyone except for 3 people. But either way, it'll make no difference because they're not going to vote for either of them.
Yeah, absolutely. As they showed us with Liz Truss, if they don't like the person who's in, they can just get rid of her after, or after a month. Moving on to The Guardian, and economists don't agree on anything at all, except that rent caps are a terrible, self-defeating idea. But Labour have never seen a terrible idea they didn't like, Paul.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Ministers urge, this is in The Guardian, by the way, ministers urge to introduce rent caps to tackle housing crisis in England. So this is an exclusive in The Guardian. Letter from union leaders, oh, great stuff, and renter groups urged government to tackle root cause of unaffordable rents. Now, there's a massive argument we could have here about what the root cause is. In this case, they believe it's rent prices. Now, on the face of it, capping the cost of rent sounds wonderful.
I like
if you don't understand economics, because what it does is it drives up demand and it ends up affecting the people you're trying to save the most. And the reason we know that...
I still like it.
Yeah, I know you do, and you'll be allowed to talk very soon, Kerry. But the reason we know this is because we've seen it happen in Scotland, I believe. We've seen it happen across Europe. There has to be another way, and capping rents
there's no way you can ever cap rents that works. It's ridiculous. Every time they try it, it's terrible. It reduces the amount of available housing stock. It hurts the people, as you say, that are looking for places to rent. It hurts renters, unless you're one of the very lucky ones who manages to get a capped house. But then you can't move. Then you're stuck in that place because you'll lose your special deal. And it hurts landlords as well. And price is a signal. So when the prices go up, it's a signal to the economy. Build more of these things, you'll make more money. So that should lead to more houses being built. The problem is we've got too many people and not enough houses, and we've got 1.2 million people coming into the country every year, and we're not building houses. You know, they're not bringing houses with them. So what we really need to do is either stop so many people coming into the country or build millions and millions of new houses, and I don't think either of those things is going to happen. So rent caps are going to do absolutely nothing except make the problem worse.
No, I'm for rent caps for me.
Yeah,
just me.
Specifically for Kerry Marks.
I was never for a moment saying it works on a countrywide basis. You're obsessed with like people and numbers and everything. I've already driven.
Headlines are about you. Policies should be about you.
It affects me, and I want my rent capped. I think, you know, a landlord puts it up far too much. Well, something needs to be done. But also, you know, yeah, sure, this is part of the trying to house everybody in the Labour Party are planning on building. I forgot what the numbers were. It's something like 3 billion houses a day or something. They're looking at, which they may as well do. And the other method,
1.5 million, I think. Yeah.
The other method they're looking at is stopping the winter fuel allowance so that more old people die and there'll be more houses available.
Loads of big old houses available.
They're trying everything.
And making Britain so terrible everybody leaves. Yeah. That's going to be the thing that reduces demand. Anyway, that's part 2 done. In the next section, we've got Sadiq Khan platforming a homophobic hate preacher, an LGBT charity is being sued for paedophilia, and what The Guardian's doing to boost sales of Tommy Robinson's new book. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We can expect to see showers and some longer spells of rain, but there'll be plenty of dry and bright weather across the country, though it is going to be feeling cold. And the reason for this is that we're dragging in some cold air from the Arctic, and that is spreading its way from the north, moving across the country. As we head into this evening, there'll be plenty of clear spells across England and Wales, and with light winds, there'll be plenty of rural grass frost by the time we reach the morning, even some pockets of mist and fog too. A different story across Scotland though, plenty of cloud and some showers feeding into western areas and a few showers feeding into western coasts of Northern Ireland too, and some blustery winds which is going to take the kick off of those temperatures too. As we head into the start of Friday, there'll still be plenty of cloud across Scotland, plenty of showers, these falling as sleet and snow over the Scottish Highlands, and just a few showers creeping into western coasts of Northern Ireland and northwestern coasts of England and Wales. Otherwise, plenty of dry and bright weather to start Friday. However, it is going to be a cold and crisp start. Generally a cold day on offer across the country, but there'll be plenty of bright sunshine across much of England and Wales. Light winds, so even though temperatures are fairly similar, it should feel more pleasant in the sunshine. Still plenty of cloud across Scotland, those showers merging into longer spells of rain, and still a chance we could see some sleet and snow over mountains. As I say, with lighter winds, it should feel a little bit more pleasant in that sunshine, but it is going to be feeling cold, and blustery winds still moving across Scotland, adding to the chill. And as we start the weekend too, there's still plenty of showers, longer spells of rain, and these moving slowly into across the Scottish borders, northern parts of England, generally turning clearer from the north, but still across England and Wales, plenty of bright sunshine, but another cold day on offer, and still feeling cold over the weekend, but turning milder into next week. Bye for now.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Guardian now running a full-page advert for Tommy Robinson's new book, which according to the article is available on Amazon for £24.99 and would make an excellent Christmas present. I might have made up that last bit. Maybe they didn't say that, Paul.
I don't know if they did. Amazon criticises Tommy Robinson's book tops bestseller chart. So a campaign group, which in this case is Hope Not Hate, says site is platforming, the site being Amazon, far-right activists by stocking book, which reached #1 this week. #1, by the way, ahead of Boris Johnson. The book's called Manifesto by Tommy Robinson, which does sound slightly terrifying. Interestingly, Hope Not Hate have said in here that everyone has the right to write and publish a book. Thank you. Thanks for that. And they've also said that freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. So they're getting their little terms in.
Yeah.
And more and more. This is what I genuinely believe. Hope Not Hate and Tommy Robinson are two parts of the same Venn diagram. If Tommy Robinson is a far-right extremist, then Hope Not Hate are far-left extremists by the same sentiment. They really are. So whilst I don't necessarily agree with Tommy Robinson, the idea that someone like Hope Not Hate comes in and tells us what we can and can't do and read is only going to encourage me to do it. I would probably never buy a Tommy Robinson book, and I would never be aware of it.
What's Tommy Robinson said or done that you consider to be, too extreme?
No, nothing for me is too extreme about...
Nothing for you is too extreme, is that general?
I just want this on record. I want this on record.
Can we go to break?
My point is nothing is too extreme. And however, what I would do, just to balance it out slightly, is I just don't have that same interest in Tommy Robinson.
Right.
What Hope Not Hate have done here is they've drawn Tommy Robinson to my attention, and I might now be interested.
Well, this is the thing. If they just let this pass, I think Hope Not Hate are deliberately, putting flames under Tommy Robinson, deliberately boosting him. They talk about limiting his reach, but they're extending his reach. I wouldn't have known about this book if Hope Not Hate weren't crying about it in the Guardian.
And we're talking about it now. We're adding to that right now. now.
Exactly. So Hope Not Hate want Tommy Robinson to be incredibly prominent, so then they've got a bogeyman to try and fundraise against, because Hope Not Hate are essentially just grifters. They're horrific people. I found a member of Hope Not Hate admitted to attacking Asian women with a hammer. These are not pleasant people. These are horrible. Some of them are former right-wing bigots, like genuine bigots, not people who've just complained about grooming gangs or whatever. Genuinely horrible people.
They're mostly angry the book's done well, though, isn't it? I mean, it's gone to the top seller. So
is that money not going into their pockets?
It's not going in their pockets. It's done better than Boris Johnson's memoir and the books by Richard Osman and Sally Rooney. I bet they're even more upset about it, really. But I don't really know a lot about Tommy Robinson. To be honest, I know who he is. I know what he is. I know. I do tend to be more interested in people who are particularly intelligent or eloquent and can say things that I can't say, in ways I can't. So Tommy Robinson doesn't particularly attract me much. But I wouldn't be able to answer your question of what's he said that's bad. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think the overall reason, I think Tommy Robinson, he's definitely made some missteps in the past. I didn't know much about him, but I looked into him since he was getting all this attention. And I think really the problem is that the issue of grooming gangs is such a scar on this nation's psyche. It's one of the most horrific things we've ever we've got in our recent history. So as a nation, we've just looked away. We memory hold it, and we don't want to acknowledge it. And Tommy Robinson points at it and says, look, and he draws attention to it. And people always hate the messenger more than the criminal. So I think that's the real reason. Tommy's crime is noticing, and they criticise this book for propagating the replacement theory. And this is the idea that white Europeans are being replaced via mass immigration, particularly from Muslim-majority countries, with the cooperation of left-leaning elites. Now, I hear the left, the establishment, say the exact same thing. They say we've got an ageing population, so we need mass immigration to replace it. But they say it's a good thing. It's as soon as you say the same thing, but you say it's bad, that you become a conspiracy theorist.
This is exactly what I was talking about, with two sides of the same Venn diagram. Now, the things they accuse Tommy Robinson of, they do themselves and more. Yeah. And by the way, there's such a good point on the grooming gangs. Should they ever be smashed, and it looks like they're making great headway into that, Tommy Robinson would deserve the credit for that.
You can see him getting an OBE.
I don't believe he'll get an OBE. He might get like free scampi fries at his local pub. That's the sort of thing I'd be interested in, and good luck to him.
OK, moving on. Well, we've still got careers. We've got the Telegraph now, and Sadiq Khan has banned adverts showing cake from TfL tube platforms, but he's allowed adverts showing an Islamic preacher who said that gay people were worse than animals, which sounds a bit more harmful, Kerry.
Yeah, he said, yeah, that's right, he did say gay people were worse than animals, but I didn't know what he meant by that. It might have been that he's had sex with both, and he found that the animals were better.
Yeah, it could have just been, it could have been a review.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Like, read like a 1-star, but it was actually a 4-star review.
Don't knock it till you've tried it, is what he said. He's known as the, Mufti Mink, which is a pretty cool... It does say... Mufti Mink.
That sounds like a racial slur.
That's a good nickname, though, isn't it? I mean, well, no, he's come up with it, presumably, or it wasn't me. Let me make that very clear. He was banned from entering Singapore after the city's State Ministry of Home Affairs accused him of promoting segregationist and divisive teaching and so on. This seems to be more about him than... I think what he's actually advertising is a bank, if I follow this correctly.
And the advert is burning American dollars. We've got a picture here. So that's what's his name? Khabib.
That looks like something you and I might have generated in AI to try and get likes on Twitter. That's what that looks like. That doesn't look like a genuine advert.
So this is a UFC fighter, a Muslim UFC fighter, and this Islamic preacher, and they're burning American dollars and also some euros, as you know.
Sure.
Death to the colonial capitalist bigots.
But it's also to promote this bank, which is an Islamic-based bank, and it doesn't invest in tobacco, alcohol, firearms, or adult entertainment.
Non-flammable money.
It has non-flammable money, does it?
No, but they're burning.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right, OK, yeah. I think it's good that this bank doesn't get involved in adult entertainment, because I don't know if you've seen any Islamic adult entertainment, but it's not great, Nothing happens in it at all.
And what do you mean by adult entertainment?
Another one, we're going to the break again. Another conversations we need to have tonight. Yeah, look, he's what it's really about is a comparison to what has been banned, which is largely food things or anything that encourages bad choices, including an advert for Ed Gamble's tour, the comedian Ed Gamble, and it was he had to replace a hot dog, which of course is bad for you, with a cucumber. So he came back, and that of course has changed people's eating habits now. When people go to football games and musical events, they'll say to their mate, "Hey, do you want to go off and get a cucumber?"
Let's go to the foyer and get a cucumber.
Yeah.
The amount of hate crimes you can commit with a cucumber is immeasurable.
Well, that's going back to that guy saying gay people are worse than animals. Maybe he's tried some vegetables as well. Moving on, we've got the Telegraph now, and police are being urged to record antisocial behaviour as serious crime, even though it's obviously not serious crime, Paul. It's antisocial behaviour.
Well, exactly. And it's all about the definition, isn't it? Antisocial behaviour wrongly treated as low-level crime by police. Watchdog warns the forces are failing to record nearly half of incidents which have significant impact and could cost lives, Leo. So, just for some statistics, police recorded about 1 million incidents of antisocial behaviour in the year ending September 30th. That's an extraordinary amount of antisocial behaviour, isn't it? But this is no news, because every government in my adult life, every successive government has tried to tackle antisocial behaviour. In '98, we had Tony Blair and the ASBO. Since then, we had Cameron and the CBO, which is slightly worse version, criminal behaviour order. But one thing
my brother got one of those. I thought he'd got an MBE or something. But no, you're telling me it's a bad thing.
It's not great. It's not. Well, it depends on where you live. Right. Some of the estates I grew up in, CBO, that is big. That is big news. You will get free scampi fries. But one thing that hasn't been tackled is the antisocial behaviour. It doesn't matter how many hoodies we hug, how many CBOs or ASBOs we give out, it's not been fixed. This is saying that obviously it's like a gateway crime.
Yeah.
So if you are messing around at the park,
you can't stop people being wallies, basically. Let's just quickly fit this one in as well. We've got the Daily Mail, and a taxpayer-funded LGBT charity that keeps spawning paedophiles is being sued. Have they complained that this is paedophobia yet, Kerry?
The Mail can reveal a man is taking taxpayer-funded LGBT youth Scotland to Scotland's highest court after claiming he fell prey to abuse, for which the charity is responsible. And he's likely to sue for £100,000.
That's a lot of money in Scotland.
That's a great deal of money in Scotland, yes, and it could go higher after that as well. I don't think we actually know what the case directly revolves around, but we do know that LGBT Youth Scotland has been the centre of a number of rows over a coming out guide
its chief executive
by a convicted paedophile.
Chief executive James Rennie was convicted. He's still in jail for being part of one of Scotland's biggest child abuse rings. And more recently, there was Andrew Easton, who was involved in writing. He wrote a coming out guide for LGBT youth, and this is, and some of the language in the guide is the language of grooming. It says, like, don't talk to your friends if they question you or whatever. Don't talk to them. Talk to me.
Go for the sweeties.
Yeah, don't talk to your dad. Don't talk to your parents. Talk to me. It's really sinister. And this handbook written by a paedophile was then distributed by the Scottish government. Teachers, doctors, all the rest of it. It's very sinister stuff. And he didn't even get any jail time for his child abuse.
No, but they're having a bad run. I mean, child sexual assault isn't really a good look for a youth charity.
No, not at all.
I generally think.
Why is it always Scotland, though? Why is it always Scotland? If the UK was a nightclub...
Yeah, what's going on with your
people? The corner of the nightclub that is Scotland would be full of male feminists all pretending to look out for women and dropping things in drinks.
Well, yeah, they've all got purple hair, which is obviously, it's a warning sign in nature. I think it should be a warning sign around schools as well. But I think the issue is that, a lot of these charities give access to children, and they also give you status in the community. So, you're sort of protected. You can't be questioned because that would be, some kind of phobic. So then people like Andrew Easton maybe 50 years ago, he would have gone into the church or something else that gave him protected status and access to children. Now they're going into these charities, and I think there needs to be questions asked over these charities, the oversight that's on them.
Absolutely. And it's almost like they're generated by these Andrew Easton characters. Yeah. And by the way, do your research at home, guys. Look at Andrew Easton. He is the full uniform of wrong-un.
Man, you don't even need a trial. It's like, just look at his picture.
Just absolutely no way he's not a wrong-un.
But wrong-uns always find a way. That's what it is.
Yeah, we certainly do.
End of part 3. Coming up in the final section, we've got the dangers of going to the opera, the diversity hire lesbian captain who sank her ship, and how to get promoted at work. See you then.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
We shot with the London Eye in the background, so it's quite an iconic shoot to do my cover of the Playboy magazine. So,
and you moved into the mansion for a while. Hugh called you the British Carmen Electra. You were one of his favourites, and it's renowned for its parties, of course. Over there, you must have had a few of those. Must have been wild times.
Fantastic parties, yeah. I mean, I met some incredible people. I will forever respect him and everyone at Playboy for the love and the support.
And you were on giant billboards, you were modelling for Nike, for Reebok, you're earning thousands of pounds a day.
Wow.
Absolutely like living the dream in terms of a model's lifestyle, and then things began to change.
Well, I've been living in Windsor for 4 years, and I can't get back into Windsor at the moment. The rents have gone ridiculous. I was paying $550 a month, and then the landlord just turned around one day and said I need to be paying $750. And I didn't really have a proper tenancy agreement, and I looked through it and I said, oh, can we get something in writing? And he was like, oh. So in the end, I wrote a tenancy agreement out from off the internet and I got it all signed. But then he went, if you're not going to pay the extra £250 a month, then you're going to have to move out. And I was like, well, you're going to have to give me 4 weeks. I can't just move out. I've got nowhere to go. And I think he thought he could just throw me out there and then. And he said, I've got someone that's going to move in that's going to pay £700-800 a month. So I went and got the 10, and I thought maybe this will be the way I can go for a few months or so, you know. And it was still summer a few months back when I became homeless. So, you know, I got the 10 and I got all the cooking equipment and what have you from the money I got from some of the jobs I did. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and be a free spirit for a bit, and I'm gonna have to just do my own thing. And you know what, it was the biggest mental relief to be able to have my own space. I mean, that was so liberating, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. We've got the Mirror now, and more than a dozen audience members required medical assistance following a risque performance at the opera that depicted explicit lesbian sex, real blood and naked roller skating nuns. Are you sure this is opera, or is it the Lib Dem conference?
Well, where's it on? It sounds great. Yeah, totally. All those things, sensual, poetic and wild. Scenes growing increasingly bizarre, including when an actress with dwarfism, dressed as the Pope, is raised into the air and spun around by a robotic arm while another performs Eminem songs dressed as Jesus. I'm not sure what point they're making, but it sounds like they're thoroughly doing it, you know? They're getting into whatever the point they think they're making. Yeah. And there's also sword swallowing, but with, I think, on roller skates, and it's a crucifix rather than a sword. So they've really made some developments there with that form. This is just a way. This is feminism being feminism in a sense that we haven't seen much of for a while, actually. Yeah. There's blood and guts and stuff everywhere and showing how awful the world is.
My issue with this is, like, they say it's a radical vision of the Holy Mass. We're being so subversive and crazy. And it's like, no, you're being really tame. This is stuff that was being done in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
like, if you did it about, I don't know, Islam, or you did it about something that, you know, genuinely nobody feels comfortable criticising, then you'd be breaking taboos. This is just reinforcing the standard paradigm.
Absolutely. We have regressed back to the sort of sensibilities of the 40s and 50s a little bit, haven't we?
Well, no, because you can criticise Christianity then.
No, the people fainting is just funny, though, right? That's pathetic. There used to be, hundreds of years ago, magicians would do, like, the sawing in half, and they would actually turn the boxes so you could see the parts of the assistant all cut in half and blood, and they would have the ambulance standing by for dramatic effect. Yeah. But they weren't trying to make some point about, feminism or something.
What is good, though, is they didn't really apologise. They went, look, you know what? I mean, it's got to be in the pamphlet, isn't it, or whatever they end. I don't go to the opera. I don't know if they even use the word pamphlet. But one thing I do know is they did say what they were going to let themselves in for, and they went along and still fainted, the absolute wallies.
Yeah, moving on, we've got the Times now with the condemnation of the trawling of a lesbian Navy captain who crashed and sunk a ship. It's quite right, that crash had nothing to do with her sexuality. It happened because she's a woman, Paul.
And that's what the story says. New Zealand condemns sexist trolling of sunk ship's captain. The British commander, no need to mention that she's British, of the New Zealand Navy vessel, hit a reef in the Pacific and has been praised for saving the crew, because she basically said, as soon as she finished parking or whatever she was trying to do, she said, abandon ship. Sorry, I'm getting myself into some serious... Yeah, she saved their lives by saying, look, I've done a baddie, done a whoop-so, we need to get out the ship. But, of course, since then, the internet trolls have got involved, i.e. us three, and they've criticised her largely for being a woman.
Yeah, being a diversity hire who then couldn't do the job properly, which we don't know if that's the
No, of course we don't. We don't know what happened.
We don't know anything, actually.
We don't know what the reef was, why the reef happened, why they ran into it, why she told everyone to abandon ship. It might have been all mistakes and so on. Yeah. But yes, I mean, they're right. This is do you remember a few years back where an astronaut was trying to change something on the International Space Station and she accidentally let go of a tool bag? Yeah. I think it was like $100,000 worth of tool bag. It was one of the biggest mistakes ever made in DIY history. But obviously women were going to get it for that because they were going to be like, oh, a woman doing DIY.
Let's quickly squeeze this one in before we go to the papers. We've got the Mirror with a warning for people returning to their homes after Hurricane Milton. Check for alligators that might have snuck in.
Oh, we're on the alligators. Yes, right. Terrifying alligator warning as Hurricane Milton to spark surge with beasts. Oh, this is just nonsense. this is just someone who works at an alligator farm who wanted to get a bit of coverage for something, and he's saying our alligators wouldn't do it. We're going to keep them locked up. But you think the alligators, they can hold their breath.
You think a corporation is behind this? You think big alligator is behind this?
I think this guy just wanted to be mentioned in the press. Yeah, that's all this is about. And the alligators can hold their breath for 6 hours. So it's a sci-fi film waiting to happen, isn't it?
OK, well, we've got to go to the front pages again now. That's it for the show. We've got the Times with workers' bill set to help unions raise labour cash. The Telegraph leads with private hospitals to rescue the NHS. The Express has impossible choice to heat or eat for pensioners this winter. The Guardian has United Nations says Israel deliberately fired on its peacekeepers. The Sun has We're Here For You. That's Kate Middleton visiting Southport. And finally, the Daily Star has Del Boy, save our gits and plonkers. That is swear words that are falling out of fashion. And that's it for tonight's show. Thanks to my guests, Kerry Marks and Paul Cox. Cressida Weston will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with me and Nick Dixon. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then do stay tuned for breakfast and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We can expect to see showers and some longer spells of rain, but there'll be plenty of dry and bright weather across the country, though it is going to be feeling cold. And the reason for this is that we're dragging in some cold air from the Arctic, and that is spreading its way from the north, moving across the country. As we head into this evening, there'll be plenty of clear spells across England and Wales, and with light winds, there'll be plenty of rural grass frost by the time we reach the morning, even some pockets of mist and fog too. A different story across Scotland though, plenty of cloud and some showers feeding into western areas and a few showers feeding into western coasts of Northern Ireland too, and some blustery winds which is going to take the kick off of those temperatures too. As we head into the start of Friday, there'll still be plenty of cloud across Scotland, plenty of showers, these falling as sleet and snow over the Scottish Highlands, and just a few showers creeping into western coasts of Northern Ireland and northwestern coasts of England and Wales. Otherwise, plenty of dry and bright weather to start Friday. However, it is going to be a cold and crisp start. Generally a cold day on offer across the country, but there'll be plenty of bright sunshine across much of England and Wales. Light winds, so even though temperatures are fairly similar, it should feel more pleasant in the sunshine. Still plenty of cloud across Scotland, those showers merging into longer spells of rain, and still a chance we could see some sleet and snow over mountains. As I say, with lighter winds, it should feel a little bit more pleasant in that sunshine, but it is going to be feeling cold, and blustery winds still moving across Scotland, adding to the chill. And as we start the weekend too, there's still plenty of showers, longer spells of rain, and these moving slowly into across the Scottish borders, northern parts of England, generally turning clearer from